Well, I am a practicing Buddhist, although philosophically I'm not a Buddhist. I have been mostly using Buddhism as a way of just, trying to cultivate my own spiritual life, whatever the heck that means. And the issue, I guess probably the thing that has always fascinated me is this issue of what's the relationship between rationality and intuition. That takes many, many forms. And, because I'm a philosopher, I've tried to deal with that issue wherever it's popped up. The issue seems to be popping up a lot these days with the question of, what about causes that make reference to beliefs and desires, the kind of causes that we see as causing our own behavior, and the descriptions of what's going on in our brains. Like you take a look at if somebody comes up to somebody and hits them in the jaw, and you say back to that person after you've been hit in the jaw, well, why did you do that? And the person says, well, because a signal came down to my brain, and then it hit my, muscle, and then the muscle caused the bone. You can keep giving descriptions like that forever. You're never going to get the right answer. That's not the answer. It's not even going in the right direction. The answer you're looking for is something like, I think you're sleeping with my wife, or I didn't like the way you looked at me, or something. And all of these make reference to your values and your goals and purposes. Now, how do you tie those two points of view together, those two kinds of explanations together? Is one of them just an illusion? There's some people who think that if we were, omniscient Martians and we knew everything that was going on inside us physically, we'd never have to make references to beliefs and desires. I don't think that. I think that beliefs and desires have real causal powers and can't be reduced to, the physical, the parts that we're talking about. But both of these are physical in the sense that they're not spiritual. They're not ghost stuff. They're things that are understandable by causal laws. It's just a matter of believing that higher level emergent patterns are capable of controlling things. I can control my molecules. My molecules don't always have to control me.
Okay. So what is the relationship between will and matter?
That's a big, big topic. It's a lifetime topic. And, I think before you can have that relationship between will and matter, it's necessary, maybe not sufficient, but necessary to believe that there can be emergent properties that can control lower level properties. But the thing is, people think about the physical as having no non-emergent properties, and people think that what you have to do in order to explain beliefs and desires having really causal powers is to have them be non-physical. Once you recognize that even in physics you have emergent properties, that electrons have emergent properties that are not possessed by quarks, and that chemicals have emergent properties that are not possessed by their electrons and protons, then there's no reason to deny emergent properties to beliefs and desires. Just recognizing emergent properties are everywhere. We can't do science without them. And then it's not that big a problem saying, our beliefs and desires are emergent and have real causal powers.
Okay, I wanted to ask, what are you planning to contribute to the Wisdom Panel?
I'm going to be talking a little bit about the differences between first-person science and third-person science, and the idea, do we need something called a first-person science in order to be able to say that, meditation is real, and, that you can think of meditation as being something, Buddhist practices, including meditation, as being somehow, dealing with something that's real. I don't want to say it's science. I think it is something different than science, because you can't have a first-person science. But this issue of, science I see as being a third-person artifact. And this third-person artifact is capable of enabling us to become knowledgeable if we develop the right relationship to that artifact. But being knowledgeable is something different from this third-person artifact, which is science, socially constructed artifact. The function of that third-person artifact is to help people become more knowledgeable. But they become knowledgeable by setting up a kind of personal relationship with that artifact. And how we set up that relationship does involve making references to your subjective states, your individual private way of relating to it. And a whole different kind of language is needed to be able to explain how you become knowledgeable, which is different from the kind of information that is conveyed when you are simply reciting knowledge. Conveying information is different than teaching somebody how to become knowledgeable. Two different ways of two different goals, two different purposes in the world.
if you were to argue to a young neuroscientist who has no previous knowledge at all of Buddhism or contemplative perspectives, if you were to ask him or her to come here, what arguments would you give?
Well, I guess I would probably say something like, that no science can stand on its own, and if what you're trying to do with neuroscience is explain how human experience operates, you've got to be able to look at human experience from the point of view of the experiencer rather than the point of view of just, whatever causes the experience. That both of those perspectives are essential.